Hey guys again. Today is the 14th for me, but it probably isn't the 14th for you. It's whatever day Monday is. I'm currently eating my breakfast. I've got like 3 dates, 2 apples, and 4 eggs. And thought I'd just give another update. Essentially, if you're looking for any useful information that's targeted and directed at something specific, probably best to leave right now. This is just another video where I'm doing so many other things in my life that I thought I'd just give a kind of reflection or update on my life rather than necessarily provide targeted value on specific things. As usual, I'm currently still doing the project management course. I should have my hat. Find me. There we go, got my hat on, doing my project management work. I think as I said in one of the last videos, I've had to get I've had to search for a job. I'm just going to it. So, of the 4 things, and now I may include a 5th one after I actually read the book about it. But there was a book that recently came out, which was The 5 Types of Wealth. And it very much matches up to the same kind of viewpoint that I'd already taken with kind of, metrics that are probably good ones to look at, or like areas to keep in mind in order to look at how good your quality of life is. And I think, it matches up because you've got the physical, you've got the mental, you've got the social, and you've got the financial. But the 5th one that they include also is time wealth. And so I've taken the test. I'll put it up as a post, my metrics as they are now. I'll put that post on the community tab bit. And you can see the score that I got. Of course, the financials down, the physicals down because I haven't really been doing much. And the social's been a bit more up at the detriment to the financial, which is already very low. Mentally, been doing okay, but also pretty stressed out. I've had a couple of pretty hard days, and especially between me and Pra as well. She's having to deal with very tight financial constraints. She's also having to deal with lots of health issues with her stomach that have been lasting for almost probably a year and a half now. And then she's also got to put up with my ass. And then she's also got to usually kind of cook or something around the house. And, parts of the house are not tidy, things are not always as they want to be. There's a lot of things there. And also the financial constraint also puts constraint on how much we can do socially. It also puts constraints on how much we can do even for our health as well. She hasn't been able to get a nutritionist, and the NHS isn't that good. No, it isn't that good at all. So it's been really hard for her. And then it's also been very hard for me because, I've had to, obviously do things around the house. Wow, oh my god, that's so hard. But I've also not had that much money at all. I'm constantly kind of checking, seeing if we've got enough money to do things. I've had the constraint of having to do the project management job, work for it, while also trying to find a job. In the last 2 weeks, I've applied to 63 different places, and I've had about 3 responses. I'm just waiting on a couple of them, so that's been pretty stressful. But 2 of the main things, I'm just going to remind on. 2 of the main things that I've really, I'm going to take this off for a bit. Yeah, so 2 of the main things that have been really, that I've thought about is I was kind of walking around handing out my CV and stuff in the local towns nearby, And I was thinking to myself how quickly, like, I read the Who Moved My Cheese, that book, and it made me think about how quickly, if I didn't have any fear, how quickly could I almost get a job? I mean, I've been trying for 63 places. That's on average 5 applications every day, and I have had days off. So I've applied to quite a lot of places, but I mean, it isn't even for serious roles. It's just for barista work or something. But I was thinking to myself, how quickly can, and even I have a friend who's in a somewhat similar situation, and yeah, sure, I haven't got a job right now, but how many applications have they sent out? And how many times do we kind of just set limits on ourselves without really realising that we can go further? Like, sure, we can apply to 5 places, but we could also just go further. I've dedicated basically the last 2 weeks to neglecting my project management work and just applying for as many as I could. Admittedly, maybe I haven't been as productive as I really could be, but I've been very productive from my own standards and the productivity that I've done before. So I've been particularly stressed out by that stuff. But the second thought I had, to complete that first thought, it's to kind of go back to the idea of speed is something that isn't really kind of, I don't know, it's not something I'd really thought about. Like, it's, it's like, why do I have to stop when I've just applied for 5 places? Why couldn't I apply for 15? Why we set so many of these limits on ourselves. Oh yeah, I've walked into 5 places and I've had a couple of people who've got back to me for interviews. Why do I have to stop there? I can just tell people, oh sorry, I even though we went for this interview, I actually got a job somewhere else. And I just stop myself in so many areas like that. And how much more quickly could I be if I just kept on going? Got to the limit when you're like, okay, yeah, I've done enough for a day, I feel good. Why not just keep on going more? Why not just keep on going further? So, it kind of brings me back to something I heard on Alex Mosey video where he was talking about, some people leave decisions to be made until the end of the week, whereas sometimes, most of the time, he finishes a decision by the end of the day. And if you have to kind of, if your life is basically just making decisions and then acting on them, you're looking at kind of at max being 7 times faster if you just make a decision at the end of the day than if you make it at the end of the week. Now, obviously, it's important there are some decisions which can't just take a day. But how many times do I off-put something like that? And I think, oh no, I'll just deal with it in a bit. How, I could be 7 times faster. If you upscale that, you could do 7 years worth of work that it would take someone to do. And that's someone being pretty efficient. And you could do that in a year. It's or at least on the decisions basis. Maybe also practicing and actually applying the decisions you make would take a little bit longer. But that's what you're looking at. You're looking at doing things 7 times faster. So that's something I was thinking and I've kind of kept in mind. A second thing I've been telling myself is that in Berserk, there's a scene where Guts and Griffith are fighting each other, and Guts wins and he goes off and goes for his own independence, and this is a real knock to Griffith. And Griffith, as Guts is walking away, he's saying to Griffith in his head, this isn't even this setback here. You don't have to see it as such a big thing. Your goal is so much further ahead than mine, and it's so much bigger that this isn't even this is at most a stumble on your first way of like your journey to where you need to go and where you want to go. And I've been thinking about that for a while, and it really points out that like if you have such a big goal, if you have such a big dream, if you really believe in that dream, and it's like this giant thing that you want to have, anything behind it is just small in comparison. It just doesn't like matter. It's just as insignificant as you tripping over and stumbling. I think also another thing as well is that another phrase that I've also been kind of repeating in my head that I heard from Charlie Morgan was the idea of like, well, maybe it was like Smoothie. It was that like in order for you to have like £100 million or whatever, you need to kind of endure £100 million, like £100 million worth of pain. And that also kind of, I was, when I was thinking that, I was thinking like, oh, this must be some kind of heroic thing where like you literally get £100 million worth of weight put on your shoulders, and then you go, oh, I can't do it, but I'm heroic, and so I'm gonna, and then you like stand up, and then everyone applauds you or whatever, and then you get £100 million. But I don't know if it isn't really like that. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I'm not exactly in that position to be able to say. But one of the things I thought to myself about it was that, you know, maybe that it isn't necessarily that you have all that weight on you once. Maybe £100 million worth of suffering is just waking up each day, not really wanting to kind of necessarily like stick to your disciplines, but then doing anyway. And it's kind of getting lazy and not wanting to do that little bit extra effort, or finish that extra question, or there's this minor setback on, say, a YouTube video, and it means you have to re-edit it, and then you're thinking to yourself, oh my god, it's such a small thing, does it really matter? Like, kind of just, and then it's just, maybe it's just putting in that tiny little bit extra effort and just pushing yourself a little bit further. Yeah, that's the thought I had. And I suppose that's the kind of question that I can also ask myself, where I can go, I don't believe in deserve. I don't really believe in these things, but well, I guess what I could say is, though, I could say, is maybe the proportion of the effort that I'm putting in equivalent to the amount of energy, time and dedication that is needed to result in £100 million or whatever, you know, like a large amount of wealth. And I suppose I could keep on asking myself that question. And if it's no, it's just a matter of either pushing that a little bit extra further, or if I can't, it's about reconfiguring everything else in my life to be able to achieve that. So yeah, those are three thoughts I had. And they're three thoughts I'm kind of telling myself as I go along. So yeah, that's the sphere of finance, the sphere of socialness. I've been super social. We've been doing a lot of activities with people. That's been kind of stressing me out because that reduces time and that reduces money. Also another thing I read from Fastlane is essentially the idea that like I should kind of value my time more than my money, or I should maybe at a certain level of wealth, or maybe I should always, but I should also remember that I'm not in a position where I can just necessarily afford to just not have money right now. But yeah, so hung out with a lot of friends. It's been alright. Been okay. Nice people. Mentally, been stressed out. But I've also kind of got to the stage where I'm thinking, look, perhaps I'm just going to feel stressed out. I think as long as I don't feel like my heart's pounding and I'm feeling anxious, if maybe I'm just feeling bad, maybe I can push through that. If I'm feeling anxious, I think I need to sort that out. The exam is slightly worrying me as well mentally, because the only real way that I can know that I'm answering the right types of questions when I'm revising is if I take the mock exam, because they'll have exactly the same questions that will be in it. And the mock exam costs £70 each term. So I have got to generate some income within like maybe a week or something. I'm incredibly blessed though that I get to stay in my dad's house. You know, we have a reserve amount of money that we saved up last year to pay for rent, but he's been generous enough not to charge us rent. And of course we're going to pay him back, but something like that is such a kind of extremely lucky thing and fortunate for us. So that other aspect has been playing on my mind, the uncertainty necessarily behind my revision. It's the idea of, yeah, but I could be putting all this effort in, and it might not be coming to anything. And that's where I've kind of been flipping between doing like, basically just like thinking, okay, well, yeah, 80-20 principle, I just need to get like ChatGPT to like create flashcards for me, and then I just sit there and revise flashcards. And I've tried that, and I'm not very good at prompting the models to do the correct things. So I think I've just ended up wasting more time than if I just sat down and just manually gone through these things and just painstakingly, slowly going through it all. What else? Yeah, basically there's just that kind of uncertainty. But I find that I'm able to cure that if I come up with a whole series of plans of actions that I can take. If, say, this thing happens or that thing happens, that happens. I'm going to kind of write down a list of all these things, of all these options that I will take, like these actions that I can take when that thing happens. I'm like, okay, I already know what I need to do if anything happens. So that also really helps me with my like anxiousness. And then I keep on getting these anxious thoughts. So it's just a matter of opening my diary and going, look, you said you'd just do this. And then I go, oh yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, cool. Physically, I haven't been doing anything, but I did ask ChatGPT today to come up with a routine of like some full body stretches that will exercise and stretch all parts of my body. Some stuff I can do with some like weighted body exercises and like parallettes and like a kind of pull up beam thing that I've got. I've also been Oh yeah, and then when we went to India, I met Pra's granddad, one of her granddads, and he said he was able to cure his need for glasses, which sounds wacky, but I'm still going to try anyway. And I think perhaps one of the things I can do is, firstly, I need to come up with a way how I can sleep early so I can get up early. But I think I'm just going to perform a daily practice of doing certain exercises, breathing habits, and kind of all these types of stuff. And I'll just do that for an hour in the morning, and that can set me up for the day. And hopefully as well, it won't take too much brain points, because it will all be body based. So I won't have to think, I'll just have to do. And then I'll have a lot more brain points to actually be able to execute all my deep work and do 4 hours a day when I'm not working. Work's going to disrupt it, and I think that's also something I'm worried about. That I'll work 40% slower, or with 40% less efficiency than I would have if I would have just stuck not worked. But I'm not really in a position where I can just not work and just rely on my parents to pay for the course and everything. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I think next week it will probably be very much the same thing. So if there are no videos next week, it's essentially because I don't have anything new to say. I've got nothing really worth reporting. So yeah, what's the point in hearing someone talk about something that doesn't matter? Or nothing that's going to be helpful. I hope this has been helpful, as usual. And yeah, I hope everything's well with you guys. I hope everything's good. Okay. I'll see you guys in a bit.